Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. So, welcome back. Another episode of Being Complete. And today is fifth day, what they say. And today we're going to talk about the temple. And in doing so, we're going to take a look at a particular video here. Video by Jim Staley, who I have a pretty good history with his videos, not personally, but with his videos, and because of this persuasion that we've came to it through Jim and his video of "And He Rested," which is a very important video. No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, you should know the content of that video. Because other than that, you're just in doctrines and traditions, and you don't have all the information. So no matter who you are, you should see that video, "And He Rested." And it's on YouTube. So no excuses. So anyway, in this video is the video he did on the 2024 solar eclipse, and although we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else that he says here, and we're going to look at a few points that he brings up here at the end.
One single event still left, an event that hasn't happened in thousands of years, an event so significant that if it happens, it will quite possibly be the precursor to ushering in the Antichrist himself. I will report to you what this event is in just a moment. It's going to happen this year. But before I do, I want to ask you what you think.
So, in this event that he's talking about, what he's going to talk about here in a minute, we're going to get to in a few minutes, that he's going to talk about this, quote, sign of the red heifer. Well, let's let him go ahead and continue on.
This means so far. Do you think it means that judgment is coming to America? Does it mean war, earthquakes? Tell me in the comments what you think. If you do, tell me how God is leading you to prepare for these things. The only thing we can know for sure is that America has definitely lost her way, and judgment will always start with the household of God. Take a look at this verse in Ezekiel that talks about that future judgment and how he places a mark on the foreheads of those who are to be spared. Ezekiel 9:4 says this: "Go through the midst of the city, throughout the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over all the abominations that are done within it." Amazingly, that word mark in that verse is the word tav, which is also the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The very same letter.
Okay, so, in talking about the eclipse here, as he's doing, this mark, or as it's called, tav, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, yes, that because like the 2017 eclipse kind of went one way, and this eclipse went the other way, and makes a big X, and so this is a sign, this letter tav, and it's just not. It's just reading into things and grasping at straws, and basically he's stacking all these things up as, quote, coincidences that can't be coincidences, but coincidences are just that, coincidences. The scripture says in Ecclesiastes that time and chance happen to all.
That is placed on the foreheads of those who hate sin of their land and are praying for the Father's mercy is the same letter that's being placed over the center of the entire United States. The connections that can be drawn from this are numerous. As I mentioned before, the 2024 eclipse happens on Nisan 1, which is a very important day in biblical prophecy. It's not only the first day of God.
Okay, so Nisan 1. So he's going to go through various verses where he's going to talk about Nisan 1, or what it says in the scripture, the first day of the first month.
God's religious calendar. In 2 Chronicles 29, 2-3, it's the day where we see the doors opened up to cleanse the temple from the defilement of form.
Okay, and in this, he doesn't even read this verse, and this verse doesn't say that it's the first day of the first month, it says, in the first year of his reign, in the first month. Okay, so it doesn't actually pinpoint that this event has to do with the first day of the first month. It's just the first month of the reign, first year of the reign in the first month. So there's nothing to do with a particular day.
Former kings. Can we say today, the defilement of former presidents? In Ezra 7:9, we see that Ezra leads a large group of people from Babylon on Nisan 1 back to Jerusalem, Salem, in order to reestablish the temple system. It was also on Nisan 1 that the decree went out from Persia, King Artaxerxes, to allow Nehemiah to go back to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall. Not only was Nisan 1 set apart to be the day that the temple was cleansed and rebuilt, but it's also on this day that the new temple, Yeshua, Jesus, was baptized and began to rebuild his own kingdom on earth. Incredible. Although it's significant that the final eclipse happens on Nisan.
So I'm talking about that these events happen on Nisan 1 and going back all the way in history and saying, okay, this event happened on Nisan 1, which Nisan is Babylonian name, and it doesn't, it's not something that we're given as something that is good in Scripture, although a number of these month names, Babylonian month names, do occur in Scripture. But that was just the way that they were referenced in the secular world. And so when you talk about dealing with a calendar and coming up with a particular calendar day, like the first day of the year, there's numerous different ways of calculating the calendar, and nobody knows what's the right one. One thing is what he would be referencing here would be the Jewish Hillel 2 calendar, and even rabbis admit that calendar's off, that it's not correct, but it's close enough most of the time, but it's not right, it's not perfect. And so these events that happen on this calendar, when something happens on a particular day, and it's just a calendar that's been made up by a rabbi, and this calendar doesn't go back to ancient antiquity, even back to the time of the apostles. And so this calendar, it cannot be said to be the correct calendar, as it's even admitted by the rabbis that it's not. And so these dates that occur on it, big deal.
On one, of more importance is that it happens just 13 days before Passover, when God incredible. Although it's significant that the final eclipse happens on Nisan 1, of more importance is that it happens just 13 days before Passover, when God rescued his people out of the original Egypt from certain death through the blood of the Lamb. Is it a coincidence that these solar eclipses over America pass through 33 of the 36 Salems, and the epicenter of the mark of God just so happens to be over a place called Little Egypt right at the time of Passover? I think the handwriting's on the wall.
So I think the handwriting is on the wall. Well, the handwriting was on the wall with Y2K, and the handwriting was on the wall with the Mayan apocalypse, and the thing is that the handwriting's always on the wall because Yah has his appointed time, and each day it marches closer to that. And we're gonna know signs, yes, of the and when the timing is right and the timing has come, but taking all these things as kind of like mystical signs, not necessarily. The better signs are the signs that we have in Scripture, and the signs of the times. And yeah, even though previous generations, they had signs of the times too, but the thing is that even in the Scripture, it says that the last hour has come and that these are the last days. because these are the last days. They're of the 7,000 years. If you put it like that, 7,000 years, 6,000 years for the testing of man. Yahshua Messiah, he comes in that particular year, in that particular time frame at the end of the fourth day or 4,000-year period. And now we have these last 2 days, but so these are the last days of that point. But these last days is not to denote that, oh, there's 7 years left and stuff like that. And we're going to kind of touch on that here in a minute. So let's jump over here and let him keep going.
My friends, there's one more event that these eclipses could be a sign for. It's the sign of the red heifer. Most people that follow biblical prophecy know that it is prophesied that the third temple will be in operation before the Great Tribulation begins.
Okay, this is not true, unfortunately, and this is just modern foolishness. It's not a historical perspective. It's something that's been concocted because back in the time of what's known as the Protestant Reformation, there was also a counter-reformation because Rome was bleeding adherents into the Protestant Reformation by the millions, and they weren't going to take this lying down, and they commissioned a counter-reformation. And the counter-reformation continues to this day, but the Protestant Reformation is dead. It's been neutralized. It's been stopped. Yeah, there's a remnant out here these days, and all of the major big religions and big mega churches and stuff, they're all continuously becoming more and more Catholic because they're controlled and headed by infiltrators that are trying to bring everybody back to the mother church. And if you're not familiar with that sort of stuff, then you got a lot of studying to do. There's videos on this channel, the Understanding Revelation and the Mark of the Beast. You can get started on that, but there's a lot of things going on in the world today that they're just lies. They're part of this counter-reformation that continues to this day to bring us all back to the Church of Rome, as they call the Mother Church.
The scriptures say in Daniel 9:27 that halfway through the 7-year peace treaty that's signed in Israel, the Antichrist will stop the daily sacrifice. By default, this means that there must be a sacrificial system already in the 7-year peace treaty that's signed in Israel. The Antichrist will stop the daily sacrifice.
Okay, right there. So he says that the Antichrist will stop the daily sacrifice, and he highlights this: he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So let's look at Daniel 9, and it says, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks." So 62 weeks, 60 is a score is 20 years, 60 is 60 years. 2 weeks added to that, or 60 is 60, and 2 is 62, and so by weeks it means 7-day period, and each day for a year. So each week is a period of 7 years, and so 7 weeks, that would be 49 years, and then after the 62 weeks, when you put them both together, the 7 and 62 weeks, I believe that's 483 years, each day for a year, as it's referenced in other parts of the scripture. Ezekiel is told to lay on his side for the house of Israel, house of Judah, each day for a year. In the Exodus, they complained 40 days. He gave them each day they complained. They give them a year in the wilderness. This continues out in quote like language of the prophets, that this is how, in prophecy, a day is stood for a year. And so, from the building of Jerusalem to unto Messiah the Prince. So this is what this is about. So 62 weeks and 7 weeks. This is 69 weeks. Okay, until the Messiah comes. So, and then it says, and going forth the command to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times, and in these seven weeks when they were building, in that 49 years when they were building, that there it was troublous times in that time frame. And after 62 weeks, so this 62 weeks that's mentioned up here, after that Messiah shall be cut off. So after 69 weeks he shall be cut off. Okay, and so in the Counter-Reformation teaching that everybody teaches today, because it's all infiltrated in all the different Protestant religions and books, and the Counter-Reformation, these people are scholars, they had education and things of the sort. And so you have these false scholars that are interjecting these things that they know they're not true, but they're trying to produce a result. And so that it'll be after 69 weeks. What's after 69? 70. So they teach that the 70th week of Daniel, that it's still to come. And as we mentioned before, if it's still to come, then this is a failed prophecy. It didn't happen in 70 weeks. And this idea that it's a future 70 weeks, it's not a historical perspective. This wasn't taught before a couple of centuries ago. This is a new idea, and we just don't know it. And again, those videos I mentioned, if you got to go back to those to get some context, then go ahead. And so after 69 weeks, okay, so in the 70th week, then Messiah is cut off. So that places that the 70th week, that places it in history at the time of Messiah, at the time of the crucifixion. Okay, and so he says he shall be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince shall destroy the city. So here's where they try and hybridize this, and they try and say, oh, this is a prince that shall come. This is the Antichrist, but it says that the people of the prince that shall come. Messiah up here, right here, Messiah the prince. He is the prince. His people, the Jews, they shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. You say, whoa, the Romans destroyed the city and the sanctuary in AD 70. They were the instrument, yes, but the reason that the city and the sanctuary got destroyed was because of the people of the prince that came, which was Messiah. It was because of the Jews. Number one, they crucified their Messiah, but thank Yah that they did, because that's the way it was supposed to work. It's not their fault. They were blinded by their traditions and they couldn't see through it. And they still have that today, for the most part. And so he shall be cut off, but not for himself. So these people of the prince, number one, in that time, they say they caused the death of the Messiah. Okay, they wanted him to be killed. So that was the first thing. And then when the Romans came to siege the city, there are all these things that Josephus records that the Jews did that angered and caused the overarching ire of the Romans, and it was because of the things that the Jews did that that within the city that the Romans didn't even know was going on until they got inside finally. But there was all this infighting and stuff and going on, and it was just so disgusting because Titus, he had ordered them not to destroy the temple. He had ordered the soldiers, but the soldiers just became so enraged by the things they found inside that they tore it apart brick by brick, which is what Messiah prophesied, that there would not be one stone there left upon another. But it was because of their anger that they set it on fire. It was because the gold ran in between the rocks in the end that they tore it apart brick by brick to get the gold. So it goes on here to say, and the people of the prince shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the world war desolations are determined. And so this war is the first Jewish war in AD 70 is the culmination. It's 68 to 70. And he, okay, this is the verse that Jim had on the screen there. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And so there's no Antichrist in here. It's all about the Messiah the Prince, the people of the Prince that shall come. He's the Prince that shall come. Okay, and the people cause the desolation of the city. And he, Messiah, shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. And so it was the blood of Messiah that caused the sin sacrifice to cease, because he became the perfect sacrifice. There's no longer a sacrifice for sins. This is what the scripture tells us. It tells us that that he became the perfect sacrifice. Okay? He becomes the perfect sacrifice. And so it was in the midst of the week. Well, it was the week after the 69th week. So in the middle of the 70th week, he was cut off. And it says, for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. And so the desolate were the Jewish people that had apostatized. They had gone away from the ways of Yah, and so this made it all desolate. And so this he shall confirm a covenant for many with 1 week. This is not talking about the Antichrist. This is all about the Messiah. And so let's jump back over here.
By default, this means that there must be a sacrificial system already in operation for a daily sacrifice to even be offered. And that means that a perfect red heifer has to be offered first. According to Torah, before a temple can be cleansed and put back into operation, they must first sacrifice a red heifer that has not a single white hair, and then use its ashes to cleanse all the components of the newly inaugurated temple. The problem is that they've been trying to find a kosher red heifer ever since Israel's become a nation, and it's only been in the last year that all this has come about, and now they have 4 red heifers in Israel right now, flown on a plane from Texas and ready for sacrifice later this year. I cannot overemphasize just how serious this could be. Starting daily sacrifices would no doubt be right around the corner, along with the revealing of the Antichrist. I encourage you to watch my video.
Okay, so starting daily sacrifices would be right around the corner, along with the revealing of the Antichrist. Again, this is all counter-Reformation theology and doctrine, and it's not Jim's fault. That's just what we're taught. Okay, but what we have here is the counter-Reformation interjecting itself outside of its supposed sphere of influence. It's outside of Catholic people that this counter-Reformation is interjecting itself. And so with the idea of the temple and the third temple and the temple being rebuilt, the temple's in place, and it has been. Just like Messiah said, he said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up. And in 3 days, he rose up, and he gave us the ability to be cleansed, where that inside of us, inside of his body, becomes the temple. Okay, our bodies are the temple. And so when we go to, this is 1 Corinthians 6, know you not that your body is the temple of the set apart Spirit which is in you? Okay, so your body is the temple. This is the, quote, third temple. There's no need for a third temple outside of the Jewish theology and the Counter-Reformation theology. We are the temple. Ephesians 2:19. So then you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens of the set apart ones, and members of the household of the Mighty One, having been built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahshua Messiah being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building being joined together grows into a set apart dwelling place, temple in Yahweh, or the Master. Kyrios, the Master. So, this right here, all of this is the third temple right here on the screen. This is the makeup of the third temple. It's us. It's the body of believers in Messiah, himself being the chief cornerstone. Whatever they build in Israel, it's going to be an abomination, and he is not going to be the chief cornerstone. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law. We're to grace because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.